It's a beautiful afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us on the program Business This Week, where we take analysis of the Nigeria economy. We try to make sense out of the policies of government, and we try to see how we are able to monitor what government at all levels are doing, whether the federal, the state, or even the local, to put the economy on track. On the program this afternoon, we'll be looking at a controversial, it has been lately, controversial tax reform bill that has scaled through readings in the National Assembly, where the legislature, both chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate, they've actually passed that bill into law. And yesterday it was given to the president for presidential assent, and the president has assented to that bill. Let me give you an intro into that. Now, President Bola Tinubu on Thursday signed into law 4 tax reform bills declaring that it signaled Nigeria's readiness to modern economic growth and international investment. Following Tinubu's assent to the 4 tax reform bills, key revenue-generating agencies, including the Nigeria Customs Service, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPROC), and several federal ministries and agencies, may lose their tax collection mandate. The development, which establishes the Nigerian Revenue Service as the sole body responsible for collecting federally chargeable taxes, is expected to trigger major restructuring across the federal revenue architecture. Now, 4 of this bill include the Nigeria Tax Bill, the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. So these are the 4 bills that are scaled through first, second, and third committee stage, report stage, third reading, both at the National Assembly, the Senate, and House of Rep. Yesterday, the president assented to the bill. But how would these 4 bills have an implication on the Nigerian economy? That's what we'll be talking on the program today. And I'll be having my guest who will be joining me on the show. Let's delve and look at these bills, the taxes we pay in Nigeria. Are we really enjoying it as citizens of Nigeria? The government using it to do what they are supposed to do with it? Yes or no? I am Lawrence Osifo, your anchor. We'll take a break on the show for me to usher in my guest. Let's look at this in depth. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us still on the program, Mr. Business This Week. Now, my guest is seated, an entrepreneur, someone who understands the Nigerian economy very well. Can always talk about it from the perspective of an entrepreneur. You can also talk about it from the political perspective. I have Benedict Ochiago joining me live in the studio on the program this afternoon. Benedict, good afternoon and good to have you.
Good afternoon.
All right.
It's always a pleasure being here.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, Nigerians.
Okay. We've seen the controversy that has fallen out over months over the proposed tax reform bill that was sent to the National Assembly by the President, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, after the Nigerian Governors, or the Northern Governors Forum first, or the Nigerian Governors Forum first came out to cry against the bill. Later on, it was Northern Governors Forum. They were saying if the bill should be passed into law, it's going to be on the disadvantage to the northern states. But after the so much back and forth here and there, it scaled through first, second, committee stage, report stage, third reading, both at the Senate and at the House of Representatives. Yesterday, the president assented to the bill, so automatically it becomes law, collapsing some ministries, federal generating agencies to be one. The FIRS, the name has been changed now from FIRS to Nigeria Revenue Service. So let's look at this generally. What does this have? What impact would it have on the Nigeria economy, the implications, you know?
On the surface,
yeah,
it is going to have a very huge positive impact on the Nigeria economy.
Okay.
And not just on the economy, but on also infrastructural development.
Okay.
And then vis-a-vis the business development of the Nigeria ecosystem.
Yeah.
On the surface, I said, is a very good and strong, audacious move by the president.
Okay.
One of the things the president have done since his assumption of office is making bold steps, even though some of those steps has been adjudged to be miscalculations. But whether miscalculations or not, they were bold steps that virtually no other president since 19, except maybe President Obasanjo, actually were bold enough to make some of those statements or those steps.
Yeah.
Even though it has brought enormous hardship to Nigerians because of lack of appropriate administrations and accountability. Yeah. But on the overall, it was bold move. Okay. And this tax reform is another one that has added to the chain of those moved by the president. But however, like it has always been with other moves he has made, it has always, the intention has always been shrinked by corrupt tendencies and elements within the cycle of leadership and power. And that is also my fear at this time. Okay. It is, the tax reform is good on its surface, but where the cross of burdens lies is the tax regime administration. And the administration is not just about collecting tax alone. It also has to do with expenditures and accountabilities. Because if you're asking me to pay tax, for example, the low income earners has been exempted from paying tax at all. And then where the Hilon tax will be within the tax administration is accurately identifying those that are within the ranks of the low income earners.
How would you get to know them?
How would you get to accurately identify and capture them and capture them? And not also have a mixed multitude amongst them, because that is what we have always
seen over time.
People will try to use low income earners' identity to swing through the process of tax collection, and that is a point to note. And then again, the middle income earners, who are those middle income earners that will be taxed, and what is the percentage of tax, and who are those at the highest echelon of the tax regime in terms of collecting tax from them. So all of those things are the things that within the tax regime administration, efforts should be put in place transparently to identify these entities. And when the tax is collected, to where is it going to? What is the system by which it is being tracked to make sure that it gets to the coffers or to the purse of the federal government or to the state government when it is eventually disbursed? And then that is another point. Kudos to the chairman of the tax reform committee, very astute at Taiwo Oyedele, a very, very astute, intelligent young man. He has done a very, very good job. But my fear, as it has always been, is that Nigeria is corrupt. Our system is corrupt. The leadership is corrupt, from the presidency to the local government is corrupt. And because of that corruption, some bold moves like this by either the president or well-meaning Nigerians are always being scuttled by corrupt elements. And these elements has been fused into the system in such that these elements are interwoven with the system, that they are practically the system.
The system
itself. They are practically
so it's more like it's just hovering around.
You understand? And these are the people that will be used in the tax administration. So these are the things. Then when you have been able to collect this tax, because the burden of collecting tax is huge. But my fear is not even collecting the tax, in as much as I know that Nigeria has been running low in terms of tax administration. Many people in Nigeria don't pay tax.
That's true.
But
even big establishments.
But I don't also blame them, because they don't even also get the dividends of even the people that pay. Who is accountable for the tax that we pay? And that's exactly my fear at this time around. Because obviously with the system in place, and my greatest joy is that Nigeria Customs Service have been skimmed out of it. Because the corruption that has been in the Nigerian Customs Service as a result of this revenue generation has been very, very massive. And so this time around, the law has a kind of smuggled their hands out of this.
Tied their hands.
I know that they are pained, but the pain should remain with them.
But don't you think people will still, within that agency, people will still try to do one or two?
But it is already very clear that the powers has been taken from them.
Stripped away from them.
I think the tax regime, one of the things they should do is education, educating Nigerians of their rights and privileges within this tax regime.
Yeah.
Who are those responsible for? Who are those that are supposed to come to collect tax
from you?
And then again, also putting measures in place to check double taxation or multiple taxations, because that's what has been playing within the Nigerian sphere. So, and all of those. So we must also do all of those things. And then when all of this money has been collected, because there is a projection that, okay, if the tax regime is properly run, maybe in a year we'll be having 50 trillion or thereabout.
In order to hit the $1 trillion economy by the year 2026 or year 2030.
So that is huge, considering the fact that the Nigerian fiscal policy or the fiscal budget of this 2025 is 49 trillion naira. So if only from the tax regime alone you are able to get 50 trillion, it means that we will run a budget subsequently without having to depend on borrowing. And then also tax budget deficits and all of that, those ones. So those are the positive side of this tax regime. But my problem is the expenditure of this tax. Accountability within the authorities, within the government cycle, those that are assigned to spend this money, because the money will definitely be collected.
Absolutely.
Nigeria, they have the will to collect from Nigeria. Our leaders have the will to collect from Nigeria. But where they lack the will is the will to be accountable to Nigerians on how this money is being spent. So it is a case of Nigeria, especially within the political cycle, is like a spoiled child that is extravagant, that is frivolous and wasteful, but he wants more money. That's what.
And when you give the child more money, you also waste it.
The child will even be the reason why you become more wasteful, more extravagant. Right? So, and that is a state where Nigeria is. And I think within the president's power, he should also develop a will to deal with those that are involved in budget padding in the National Assembly. Those that are responsible for the Ministry of Agriculture in the current budget, budgeted for hairdressing activities.
I saw that. I came through it.
For hairdressing activities.
What does the Ministry of Agriculture have to do with that?
To build town halls and all of those things as a result of budget padding and all of those things. So is the president going to develop a will to deal with those that are responsible for budget padding? Because it's the people's money that will be channeled into all of that. And then there are a lot of other wastages, such as Wike has wasted a whole lot, using 21 billion to build presidential lodge, vice presidential
and
to
renewal of the international conference,
vice presidential lodge. That rumor has it that the vice president has even exited the lodge right now.
I don't think it's rumor anymore.
All right.
Sources have it.
So now, again, Wike also used about 30-something billion to renovate a house that has already been built before. So Wike, now this tax regime will provide more money for people like Wike to waste and siphon and all of those.
Would you really say he's wasting, or he's
wastage? You see, there are a lot of wastage within the Nigerian economic system or expenditure system. There are a lot of wastage because if we are really a system that is accountable, what will Wike say that he used 34 or 39 billion to renovate? What kind of paint did you buy? What kind of modeling did you
But obviously you wouldn't blame him, because this is what has been happening over the years. We've seen it happen in the National Assembly.
What we are saying that if the president is developing will to make some bold statements and take some bold steps that will put the people into suffering, because the subsidy regime he removed has actually put Nigerians into huge suffering.
Plunged them into suffering.
Right? That plunged Nigeria into huge suffering. And then a lot of other fiscal policy regulation he has done in terms of Naira deregulation. Look at what he has done to businesses in Nigeria and to Nigerians. If the things that will harm the Nigerians' everyday life, if the president is bold enough to take steps in all of those things, so he should also be bold enough to hold those that are spending the money accountable. He should also be bold enough to ask the state governors that the money you collected so and so time,
what are you doing with it?
So the president, if the president said that he's a reformer, like as he claimed, and which I believe he can be, if he is a reformer, so he should also develop a strong will to hold people within his cycle accountable. Those that are given contracts, all of those contract padding and those inflation contract
overinflating contract
and all of those people should be held accountable. When you award contract and people refuse to do the road, what is the punishment for that? So the will should not be to deal with Nigerians and political opponents. The will should also be to deliver dividends of democracy and the dividends of this tax regime, improved tax regime, to the people. Those are the things that we expect the president at this time. The president still have enormous work to do. The tax regime and the assenting to the tax regime is a huge success from his part. Okay. But it will be a huge failure if, when this money is collected, it is not being used for infrastructural development and better the everyday life of Nigerians. When this money is collected, if there is no grant for business, small and medium scale enterprises
where
like
you
us,
belong,
where I belong, if there is no grant for us, if there is no reduction in the prices of goods things, and even interest rates, if there is no reduction in all of this, eventually the whole of tax regime improvement will be a waste for the Nigerians. Okay. So it will only be to be able to pamper the bloated ego of the elite cycle. All right. So that is it. So it shouldn't just be about collecting more money so that we'll be able to deal with political opponents, collecting more money so that we'll be able to fund 2027 election within every rank. No, it should be that when we collect this money, the money, we should see good road from Lagos to Benin, from Benin to Enugu. When I'm traveling to my home state, Ebonyi State, I shouldn't be navigating through Oka, looking for where to pass through at night mile before you get to Enugu. You are aware of that route.
I served there, so I understand the road very well.
I shouldn't be looking for where to pass through Ifite and the rest to navigate bad roads. So if I'm paying distance, I should be able to drive straight from here to my home state, Ebonyi, and all of that. So all of these things are the things that should be looked at. And if Nigeria is serious and the system want to get it right, technology can be employed.
For us to collect these taxes and to go to the appropriate channel.
Where it is going to, and also track how it's being expended. You understand? So that is it. The blockchain technology is in vogue. And the blockchain technology is massive. When you begin to go into what the blockchain technology has provided, a lot of government are using it. But Nigeria, I feel, because some of my students that I've been teaching within some days, these are part of the things I've been telling them of what the importance of the blockchain technology, what it can do and what it cannot do, because some people think that blockchain technology is just about crypto alone, and that is not true. The Saudi Arabia uses the blockchain technology to track their crude oil. Every crude oil that moves from Saudi Arabia is being tracked to destination, and the pathway is being tracked. That is why you don't hear stolen oil in Saudi Arabia, because
unlike what we have over here.
When you go to the room, you see computer that tracks the movement of those crude to the destination and where the money is being channeled to and all of that. So if Nigeria can deploy this kind of technology, but the problem is that when it is being deployed, there will be no much room, because the blockchain technology is transparent enough to track you that want to steal. So there will be no more room for those people, that want to
lapses.
Steal. It will close lapses. And the politician does not want those lapses to be closed. Even the civil servants, the corruption in the civil service is even more than what happened among the political elite. They will not want all of those systems to be closed, and that is the problem. Expending it and using it for the good of the Nigeria is where the problem lies.
Okay, Benedict, you've said so much. It seems like we shouldn't end this conversation, but we have to go because we're pressed for time. I really want to thank you for your insight into this new tax reform bill that has been signed into law by the president. We'll continue to monitor and see what happens with the agencies that have been collapsed together and see how it affects the average Nigerians on the street. Thank you very much for your time. That's how far we can go on the show this beautiful afternoon. It's been a great time talking with an expert who understands the business world perfectly well to give us an insight into it. We'll see you again next week, God willing. On behalf of my entire team, we thank you for your time. I am Lawrence Osifo. See you again. Bye for now.